Hello everyone, I'm Mimi. So today I'm gonna give you a very easy tutorial on how to use the AutoGen. So the first step, you have to go to the public repo of this AutoGen by Microsoft, which I provided in my presentation slides. Okay, so now we have this AutoGen GitHub repo, and the easiest ways to start this project is we can go to the quick start part. So here you can click the GitHub code spaces. So this is an environment provided by the GitHub. So you don't need to set up any environmental setting. Then you can just use this code space to do your AutoGen project. Okay, so now I have created one code space here. So when you get into this code space, the first thing you need to do is to configure your OpenAI API key. So here is an config list sample file here. So what you need to do is you can delete this to additional setting, which we don't need this. And then you can set up the model, which we can use GPT-3 Turbo, and put your API key here. So when you have set this up, then what you need to do is to copy this config list to the notebook folder. So there is a notebook folder here, which we will have a demo here later. So you have to copy a OAI config list file into the notebook. For example, I have one OAI config list JSON file here into the folder, and then we will start our demo here. Okay, so the task I choose here is to solve the task with code generation, execution, and debugging. Okay, so to just a quick recap of the AutoGen. So in this notebook, we will have an assistant agent and a user proxy agent. So assistant agent is an LLM-based agent, and it can write some Python code or give some instruction of to teach you how to complete your task. And we also have user proxy agent. And user proxy agent is an agent serve as a proxy for the human user to execute the code written by the assistant agent. So that is the tool part. If you remember what I say in the Thursday class, the user proxy agent will represent the humans and the tools, so it can execute the Python code. Or you can also configure your user proxy agent to have human involvements. So to do so, you have to set the human input mode. But in this demo, I won't have the human input mode. So the user proxy agent will only be the tool to execute the code. Okay. So the first part is to get a config file that I just mentioned earlier, which will get the file you have the GPT-3 or 4 API keys. Okay, so to run this notebook, I will first run this block. Okay, so it says we finished this part. Okay, and then we will start to config our agent. So the first agent we want to config is the assistant agent, which is by the LM. So here you can give it a name, which is the assistant here, and the LM config. I don't think this is a really important thing, which you can just use the default. And then when we set up the assistant agent, then we are going to set up the user proxy agent, which will be responsible for executing the Python code. Okay, so we will give it a name and then set a human input mode to the neighbor. So in this demo, we won't have human involvement or feedbacks here. And the maximum consecutive auto reply is just the maximum conversation times. So we set up to 10. And then we will set up the is termination message. That is basically used to config user proxy agent to when will this conversation end. So it will end when the user proxy agent sees a terminate token sent by the assistant. Okay, and then is the code execution configuration. So this is basically the we can set up the directory where the Python code will be executing. So if the Python code creates some figure or files, it will save below the coding folder. And then the use Docker. Because we are not using Docker here, so we will set it to false. And then we have two agents set up. So then we can start our chat. So how to start your chat? You will use the user proxy, which is represent us. So user proxy will initiate chat to the assistant. The assistant is the assistant agent. So we will send a message to the LLM agent. The message is what date is today, and please compare the year-to-date gain for Meta and Tesla. Okay. So now I will run this block. So this block is basically setting up two agents and initiate a chat. Okay. So as you can see, this is the process which how this initiate chat happens. So user proxy will first send this message, which we write it here. We'll send this message to the LLM assistant, and then the assistant will receive this message, and apparently they write an instruction and also the Python code here, and then the terminate tokens. Okay, so it will send this Python code to the user proxy, and as we know, the user proxy is a tool that can execute the Python code. So there's an instruction here. So the code execution is triggered automatically by the user proxy agent. So when the user proxy agent detects an executable code block in like this and Python. So when it detects this, it will automatically execute this code. Okay. So we can expand this whole execution process. Okay. So the assistant will write this Python code, and then the user proxy will receive this Python code. And okay, so now we can see the user proxy is executing the code, and the result will send back to the assistant. So this is the result of this Python code. So it will exit with 0, which means the execution is successful. And the code output will show the today's date and the calculated Meta and Tesla year-to-date gain. So basically the first task is finished, right? So the user proxy will send back the result to the LM assistant, and the assistant will see the result, and it found out that our task is finished, so it says that great. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask, and then it will send the terminate. So as we stated before, when the user proxy see a terminate token by assistant, the user proxies will stop this conversation. Okay, so this task is finished now. So let's go to the next step that this task will do. Okay, so now the user proxy will follow the previous question and add an additional question here. So user proxy send a message to the assistant saying that please plot a chart of their stock price change, YTD, and save to stock price, YTD.png. So this task is basically we want the LLM to write code for us to plot the stock price change plot. Okay, so now we will run this code. Okay, now Okay, so just a small thing to notice. If you want to expand the result of the the, the block in the notebook, you can click the scrollable element. Then you can see the whole execution process here. Okay, so the user proxy will send the message to the assistant, and then the assistant will write a Python code and with the instructions to the user proxy. Okay, so this is the Python code to plot the stock price change. Okay, so the user proxy will receive this Python code, and it will automatically detect this code block, and then it will execute this code. Okay, so now the Python code will exit with 0. It means it succeed, and send back the result. Okay, and then the assistant will say, yeah, now the task is done. So we can see in the coding folder in the left side here, there is a stock price plot here. Yeah, here. So this is the plot after we execute this Python code given by the LM agent. Okay, so now our task is done, and this is basically our first demo of the AutoGen.